Hello everybody. Today we'll be talking about a simple application on monitoring Kafka with OpenTelemetry. We'll also talk about how you can instrument the Kafka and get more metrics from that using the traces and understand what's the difference, like what's the delay between Kafka producer and consumer. So we'll take a look both from a metrics perspective and also what's the delay which the client apps are facing. So let's get started. I'll just take you through the current setup which I have for the Kafka projects and the producer, and then we'll dive right in. So in this project, I have I've installed Kafka, and I have a couple of projects, applications written in Node.js for Kafka producer and Kafka consumer. So I just used ChatGPT to get a sample application for this. So if you just want to look into the code, I can show you. So if you just go to cd Kafka, so it's nothing, it's just Express app, and it's creating a produce endpoint which we will call, and then that will send a message to Kafka, which we are hosting at 9092 port in the machine, and we are using Node.js topic as the topic on which to send this, right? So pretty simple application here for the producer. And the next thing we'll do is we'll also go and see a Kafka consumer app code. So if I just go here, if you can see, this is just a standard Express app with specifying that it's a Kafka consumer and the topic is the same Node.js topic as where we're sending the data from producer, right? So as first step, we'll just run Kafka and then try sending data to us and see if this whole setup works. So let's go ahead and start Kafka. Some commands already written here, so I'll just stream through to that and find the right command. This is for creating, yeah. So this command creates a zookeeper server, and then we'll use another command to start the Kafka server. So we have both the commands running, and we already have created topics for this. So I will just start these two apps. So if you go to the consumer app, so it seems there's some issue with Kafka getting set up. So let's see. Okay, so we are in the wrong folder. Sorry about that. Cool. So we'll just start the services zookeeper service here, and I'm guessing the Kafka service is also not correctly configured, so we'll just also run the Kafka command again. So this starts the Kafka server. So hopefully we should now have a Kafka and a zookeeper running. And now let's start the consumer again. So we have a consumer app running now, and then we'll go to Kafka producer. And just run this producer code. So this shows a warning message, but I think that's not much of an issue. We can see that producer app is listening on localhost 3000. And then we just need to execute some request here to call the producer app. So I'll just use curl to do that. So this is the method. So as we saw, producer app has the produce endpoint. So we'll call that, and let's say hello from call 20. So it says message has been sent successfully. We should be able to see this message in producer app and also hopefully in the consumer app. And as you can see, there's a hello from message curl 20. So there's a message from the consumer app which we can see here. So our Kafka setup is now working, right? The next step which will, and let's also just do a curl and do get messages, because producer app is the consumer app is exposing a message endpoint where you can listen to the message app. So let's just try and getting all those messages which are being sent. Yeah, so this command just hits the messages endpoint of the consumer app, and we will be getting the same message which we have sent, right? Let's try a couple more Kafka messages sent via producer. So I said call 24, and if I do get messages again, I will see both 20 and 24 here. Cool. So our basic Kafka application is now set up. The next step for us is to use OpenTelemetry to instrument our Kafka consumer and producer apps and see if you are able to track that in the trace and see where the time is being taken, right? So the next goal is for us to get a trace from generates from the producer app, and then which goes through Kafka, and then we should be able to see it in the consumer app, right? So what we'll do is, so we already have a running producer app. What we'll do is we'll stop that, and if you want to instrument your producer app, you can just use a standard Node.js app today. In this example, we'll just use signals to see how the traces are coming up, but you could use any other authority backend. So if you just go to application monitoring, just choose something here, and then let's say Kafka producer. We have a Express app. So here it will take you through a couple of steps. I'm running things in a Linux machine, so I will just choose this. And here we have two options. Either you can send this directly or you can send the traces directly to signals, or you can send via OpenTelemetry collector. We will use OpenTelemetry collector because in the later part of this tutorial we will also add metrics, collect metrics from Kafka. So we will choose this method. So here it shows some steps on how to set up OTel collector. I've already done this. So I'll just copy paste this and I'll show you how to run this. And then you can, so let's set up OpenTelemetry collector first. What I will do is I will go to this, so I have a tmx command open, and let's go to the OTel collector contrib. And we will run something called vi config.yml. So okay, so here we already have added Kafka metrics, but let's just run this and I'll show you what this has. So if you can see, this has, like, just exclude the part about Kafka metrics. We'll come to this later, but here you are just specifying the receivers you want, and then we are setting up a pipeline for traces. So you'll get data in your OTLP format and then export it in OTLP format, and then you will consume it in signals, right? So that's what the OpenTelemetry collector does. So I've already set it up here, and let's see, what does the other config have? Okay, so this is not the correct one. So what I'll do, I'll just run this Kafka OTel collector here based on the instruction given. So you need to start the set up the OTel collector. Next steps. So here are the instructions on how you can set up the OTel collector, and we'll just run it here. And let's just check the logs also once. Okay, so it seems I already have a OTel collector running. Let's just do PSUX. Cool, so I already have a OTel collector running, so this should just work fine. And so we have a OTel collector running now, which is listening to my applications. Next step is for us to show you how does this work. So if you go to the instructions here on how you can instrument your application, the next step you have to do is to auto instrument your NodeJS application. In this case for Kafka, you have to also add Kafka.js. So we'll add that there and basically run this with this staging.js file. What this essentially does is it instruments all your requests with with the instrumentation, and that generates the traces which is needed. So that's what we'll do. So I have already created a file with the name tracing hotel collector.js. So I'll just show you what it has. So as you can see, it has all the standard OpenTelemetry instrumentation. I think the only thing you need to add for Kafka is to add this Kafka.js instrumentation library and use that here. So basically you are just adding one more instrumentation. So auto instrumentation and then Kafka.js instrumentation here. So that's what you have to do here. And what we'll do now is to run this code, like the producer code again, but using this. So I'll do node -r. So this should start the producer app, but now it will be instrumented, and also the Kafka instrumentation will be instrumented. So this is instrumented now, which is good. Now we also need to do the same thing for consumer app. This also has a very similar hotel collector. The only difference is that the name of the service name is different. I will tell you in a bit why this is useful. So this is basically helps you to identify which service this is and how you can use it. Cool. So this is fine. So let's just also run this. Collector.js and then consumer new.js. So hopefully this should start the consumer app. Cool. So now the consumer app is listening on 3000. Both apps are communicating on Node.js topic. And now if you generate some request, we should be able to see this in signals. So let's see. So now we'll do the same thing, but let's do message number 30 here. So message is sent successful. Producer is showing this, and then consumer has also received the message. Let's just do a couple of more such messages. Say 32, 34, 36. So we have sent a few messages via there. We can see this coming up in producer 32, 34, 36, in consumer as well. And let's just try to hit the message endpoint and see if we can get the messages back. So yeah, now you can see consumer app is returning us 30, 36, 34, all these values, right? And interestingly, it also shows the offset, which we'll dive deeper into. But yeah, so it seems like we have instrumented it and it should be visible in signals. So let's go ahead. Cool. So we'll just go for the last, say, 5 minutes. So as you can see, there are two services which are mentioned here. One is Kafka producer and Kafka consumer. This is being taken from the tracing hotel collector.js file which I showed you. And if you look into any of these metrics, you'll just see some of the metrics here, right? Of course, this is like dummy data because we are just generated using curl. But you can see all the traces being generated. I think the main part which I'm interested in showing you is this flame graph. So you can see This is produce which is generated, and then you can also see the topic being, like the Kafka topic being used, and request being sent to producer, from producer to the topic, and it takes 15 milliseconds. And you can also see when the consumer receives it. So this is very interesting. You can see not just the Kafka metric, but also client side monitoring metric. And you can get more details on this, like what was the destination type, what was the service name, and what was the messaging destination, which is the topic, what is the destination kind. So for example, you can do something like group by based on the topic for each service name, and get more details on how much time are they taking, right? And because you also see the Kafka consumer, you can see, for example, this is the time which is the delay which is taken, and this is time which is being consumed by Kafka, right? So from an application perspective, you can see what's the time being taken here, which is very interesting, which you can't get through like standard metrics measurement. Next, what I'll show you is that you can create. So in the last tutorial, we showed something similar to RabbitMQ. We'll show in the next tutorial, maybe we'll also have queries for how you can analyze the application metrics or this data, the trace data, and the application focused view here. As you can see, for different requests, this is different. For example, here, this is hardly like few milliseconds, while the earlier it was more, right? And many times when people are using Kafka at a scale with multiple topics, multiple services, they want to understand where the errors are happening, which services or which topics are giving more errors, which nodes where they're running in, and all this you can get more details from here. So we'll dive deeper into that on a next tutorial. But in this tutorial, let's also just focus on getting Kafka metrics. So in OpenTelemetry collector, there's a receiver. So you can see different receivers for Kafka. One receiver which we'll use today is Kafka metrics receiver. Here you can specify what do you want to scrape. Is it just topics, consumers, or brokers, and the protocol version, and a bunch of other parameters which you can specify. And based on that, you will start getting metrics about the Kafka instance, right? So as I shared, I already have instrumented, like added this receiver in the hotel collector. I will just show you here. So in the hotel collector config file, if you see, what I have done is I've added something called Kafka metric receiver, and I'm scraping all the brokers, topics, and consumers. So these are the only essential fields. And then what you have to do is to add this in the metrics pipeline. So here I have added Kafka metrics as one of the receivers, and then I'm exporting this in OTLP format to Signos. Right, so this is already there, and then what we'll do is we'll just go to, so this is already live. So the collector which I had run was running with this Kafka metrics receiver, and we should be able to see some metrics around Kafka for this. So if you go to dashboards, I have created a Kafka dashboard here, and example, one of the dashboards I was trying to create was this. So create count of host names by Kafka broker. So there are like bunch of metrics now available here. You can also see which metrics are available from by going to this metadata.yaml in the Kafka metrics receiver. You can see like what are the attributes which are part of each of the metrics, And then what are the different metrics which are available? So Kafka brokers is one of the metrics. Kafka topic partitions. All of these are some of the metrics which you can use to monitor different aspects of your Kafka installation. So yeah, now you can see like bunch of Kafka metrics are available here. Let's just keep it to Kafka brokers and save changes. So you can see there's like only one Kafka broker, so we are good. Let's just add another panel just to show you how this works. So if you come to this panel and just type Kafka, this will show you a bunch of metrics which are present. So let's say I want to understand consumer group offset, and I'll stage and run query. And these are the attributes which are present based on which you can filter. For example, if you just want to filter based on a particular OS types, of course I'm running on a Linux OS, so you see this here. So yeah, so this doesn't change the results. I can also group by multiple parameters here. Say I want to group by host and topic, and if I run query here, I will see what are the host and what are the topic. And then let's just say if I'm only interested in the topic, then I will just plot it here, stage and run query. And because here we don't have much offset, so one is the only offset here, but this can change if you have like different scenarios, and might be a good topic to monitor, or might be a good metric to monitor, right? So let's just say Kafka consumer group offset, and we'll just save this here. And now you have another panel which shows group offset. I can like rearrange these panels here, and then you have a like different panels which you can. So this is an example. So all the numbers are 1, but this can get pretty powerful as you scale Kafka. Like this grouping by becomes very important. Like you can see different metrics based on topics and any other use case you may have. So yeah, to summarize, what we saw was we sent data from consumer, producer instrumented it, and then sent it via Kafka. We are now able to track the complete journey of a message, including the time it's spent from like sending to Kafka and then receiving it. And then you can also see what are the different offsets here which are present, which you can use to measure the health of a Kafka metric. So this is part 1 of the Kafka tutorial. In the next tutorial, we'll go dive deeper into what type of metrics you should monitor, what makes sense, and probably get more like show you some ClickHouse queries on like what more advanced things you can do when you have all this application and metrics data available, and maybe also how you can correlate between traces and metrics here. So thanks for listening. I hope it was helpful, and do let us know what else would you like to see in terms of what problems you face monitoring Kafka, OpenTelemetry, and would love to want to show you what better things you can do there. Great. Bye-bye.